this episode of Horrific History and Hauntings. I'm Beth.
And I'm Ramey. We're your hosts, here to talk about the stories that the history books ignore.
From horrific epidemics and ghostly hauntings to the catastrophes and tragic events that have sickened humanity.
Indeed. We're back. Another one of those odd hiatuses we do. I should have said also that there's a lot of links changed in the Linktree link, so check those out if you, are interested in anything else. What are we doing, Beth?
Finishing up John Wayne Gacy.
Oh, yes. That dude. We're on part 6 now.
He's already been arrested.
Yes, they found a bunch of people under his house.
Okay.
Mostly boys, I do believe. All boys. A bunch of boys, but under his house.
Once he was caught, he told authorities about his rope and handcuff tricks, the rack that he used. He admitted to raping them and to burying them in his crawl space. And then he further admitted to disposing of 5 bodies in the Des Plaines River.
Because he just ran out of room.
Yeah, he ran out of room. He also told them that Robert Peace could be found there. He also admitted that Robert's body was in the attic at the same time Lieutenant Kozenzak was in the house on December 12th.
They did say they smelled something, didn't they?
Yeah, he said
it was coming out of the vents.
That something, yeah. A tow truck driver had pulled Gacy's truck out of the mud near the Des Plaines River Bridge at around 2 a.m. on December 12th, which confirmed Gacy's claim about disposing of Robert's body in the river. And that was at the point that Gacy was formally charged with the murder of Robert Peace.
Okay, formally charged.
Yeah.
But not with all the others yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Remember we discussed, all the books he had?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Oh, I don't know how he found those.
I don't know. I bet somebody needs to look into the authors. Some more things they found at his crime scene, his home, was obviously 33 bodies. Well,
Yeah.
not all 33, I guess. Some of them were in the lake.
Mm-hmm.
But he did help them to locate his victims by drawing them a map. And during the search of his home, they discovered more pornographic materials, the mirrors on the ceiling, a collection of dildos of various sizes, and other sex toys.
We have had mirrors on the ceiling in our living room. I don't know how that...
Yeah,
It
came with the trailer, so I don't know.
They should be judging him on the dead bodies, not the odd things he had in his house so much. The books I can understand because they were particularly obvious.
Yeah.
But I really don't know how to explain the names of those books if you don't remember. Listen to the other episodes. It was some pretty awful stuff. The titles of them, like...
How were they published?
How to take
place?
advantage of young boys or something. That's about, it was about that kind of obvious.
Yeah. They also discovered that Gacy had made the garage soundproof by using insulation.
He was clever.
Yeah. Forensic anthropologist Professor Charles Warren was called in along with Dr. Edward J. Public to assist in identifying Gacy's victims. Professor Charles Warren found evidence such as pieces of clothes, hair, small fragments of bones, and Dr. Edward specialized in identification using dental records. He collaborated with dental offices to help identify the victims.
And that had to help a lot considering the state of decay.
Yeah. Investigators searching for Gacy's victims had to wear full hazmat gear because of the toxic gases from the decomposing bodies that were all crammed into one little crawl space. And the neighbors, of course, were watching as this all went down, and they were pulling body after body after body out of the crawl space. And some of the neighbors said they watched as they pulled their masks off to throw up in the yard due to the smell.
Yeah, it could have been because of the reading material.
But yeah, that too, I'm sure. There were news reports that started to reveal some of the findings, such as the class ring with the initials JAS engraved on it. It was learned later that this ring belonged to John Seeks, and his parents happened to be watching the news at the time that they showed this ring, and they recognized it. And that's how they found out that this is what happened to their son.
Oh, dear. Well, at least they didn't have to wait for a report, I guess, because it took some time for most of them.
Yeah. To try to fix the space problem before he started tossing bodies into the Des Plaines River, Gacy piled bodies on top of each other in the crawl space. It was later discovered that some of these victims had actually died on the same day as well.
After his wife moved out, he just went crazy with it.
The investigators also realized that the map Gacy had given them was very helpful because it was extremely accurate.
He just remembered, which is odd. You consider how many there were, and
yeah,
they weren't most of them. Well, I guess most of them were all kind of one after the other, but some of them were pretty old.
Mm-hmm. They had to create a makeshift morgue with about 30 tables where forensic pathology
Pathologists
could examine the bones that were pulled out of the crawl space. Before Christmas, they found 5 bodies in the crawl space and 1 in the river. Right after the holiday, another 10 were pulled out, and the next day, 6 more were found. Then on December 28th, another 6 bodies were found.
Just racking them up.
Yeah. At that point, he was considered the most prolific serial killer in the United States history. And this was just at the point of 28 had been confirmed. But on that very day, another victim was added to that when Robert Plains was found in the Des Plaines River. And he still had underwear jammed down his throat.
Oh, dear.
Then the crowd of people that were standing by to watch began going to Gacy's neighbors' properties to harass them and accuse them of seeing what Gacy was doing but not reporting it.
Of course. You'll get a slander charge for that.
Yeah. I'm sure some may have been like, oh, he may be a little weird, but you can't just report somebody for being weird.
Yeah, he soundproofed his place, so I don't know what you expect. And it was, from what I believe, people brought in the middle of the day, and then nothing odd happened until late at night.
Yeah.
And they were gagged.
Yeah.
What did you expect?
And you can't necessarily, just because someone has a bunch of visitors, go pounding on their door. What you doing? Looking through the windows.
Most people wish they had neighbors like that. Not so they could murder folks, but just so people don't bother them.
I don't want people looking through my windows or being that close in general. So on to the trial. Gacy was charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, indecency to minors, and murder. On January 4th, over 300 people attended a memorial service for John Gacy's victims. 4 days later, Gacy was indicted for 7 additional murders, and this led to the prosecution to push for the death penalty. Gacy's former home was torn down by April 10th, 1979. Afterwards, some people took pieces of the house for souvenirs.
I can see it.
Yeah. Due to security threats, Gacy was unable to go to his hearing at first because officials were rightfully concerned about people trying to murder him.
Yeah, there's countless people now who are out to get this dude.
Yeah. So they placed him at a hospital where he was watched at all times. And while there, he started collecting news articles about himself. And like many we hear of, he became suddenly interested in religion.
At that point, what else you got?
Yeah. After a strong windstorm in April, Robert Peace's body was discovered by a crane operator at the Des Plaines Dam. On January 10th, 1979, Gacy pleaded not guilty. His attempts...
What?
He pleaded not guilty. He said he was not guilty, even though he drew a map and admitted it and all that. His attempts to be released on bond failed, as did the insanity defense he later tried. He was declared mentally able to stand trial by Dr. A. Reifman. After he was found sane, his defense team tried to argue that Gacy had multiple personalities and that the personality Gacy called Jack was the one responsible for the murders.
Like the Ripper.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Jack the Ripper?
Oh, I don't know if that's where he got it from or not, but yeah. During the trial, Gacy displayed no remorse. In fact, he was often caught smiling. He also attempted to flirt with the woman sketch artist. I don't know why. It's clearly what you're not into.
It might be just part of the game for him.
The prosecution presented graphic details of the murders during the trial. According to a Des Plaines detective, Gacy, before his arrest, spoke to officers about Pogo the Clown, and he casually stated, clowns can get away with murder.
Clearly. I mean, really, this guy was getting away with everything.
Yeah.
So often. It's just insane how much he got away with. And all it took was like one bookstore or one librarian reporting some odd purchases.
Why would that be in your bookstore?
I don't know. He had to have got them at a bookstore somewhere, right? Surely there isn't like a meetup spot where you can go and trade in these books.
I don't know.
I don't normally have a problem with books. I think all books should be perfectly legal and fine. Just going back and listening to the other episode, some of the titles of those books.
Yeah. There is a theory that he was a part of...
I know, the clown and the Candyman that covered it, I do believe. One of them, he tried to say he was part of like a ring of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a sex trafficking for children.
Yeah, it could have very well been true, but Christopher and Eric on their true crime TV podcast...
Well, see, I took a bunch of notes on that, but I chose not to add it, not only because this has been so long, but also because...
There's no real...
It was kind of hard to understand because the one I got it from had a lot of detail and it kind of seemed a little bit confusing to me. Interesting, but confusing.
Yeah, if there's entire videos out there about it.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, one's called The Clown and the Candyman, I do believe. It's like halfway through the thing, it devolves into the conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was just that. It's just a theory.
But Christopher and Eric's True Crime TV Club episode on the Dinner Party Show podcast has, they cover this when it comes to John Wayne Gacy. They also didn't really believe in it, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
of course, like I said, he did seem to get away with it somehow constantly. So
he really did. Well,
maybe. And the books had to come from somewhere.
That's what made me think about that. I was like, well, I feel like a ring of pedophiles would probably have some books like that.
Yeah.
In their own little powerful circle.
It could have just been the names of the books were translated in not exactly the way it translated word for word in English came out poorly.
That's possible, I guess.
But the fact that he had them and kept them tells me that it's probably not the case.
Yeah. Evaluations by various psychologists confirm no indication of mental illness or any brain disorders.
Obviously, there was something wrong.
Well, they did discover that he was highly intelligent.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. One psychologist did believe that he displayed borderline schizophrenic traits.
The people that didn't get murdered that stayed with him would talk about him. It seemed like something else was wrong. That one guy said he just clubbed him in the head. So something there wasn't exactly normal, but I don't know if it made him... And he knew the difference in right and wrong because he tried to hide the bodies. He did it very well for a good while.
Yeah. Robert Donnelly took the stand and described his experience with Gacy. He stated that he had been beaten, repeatedly raped, had his head held underwater until he was unconscious. He explained the various sized dildos that were forced on him and the threats that if he reported it to the police, they would never believe him and how...
well, it's true.
And about how Gacy just dumped him off. And he ended up breaking down and screaming while trying to explain this to the courtroom.
Can you blame him?
No.
Because nobody believed any of them. The ones that got away. The first one ever got believed and he got charged for it. And then he just moved somewhere and done it again. And he didn't serve his full sentence that time.
No, I'm sure frustrating. During Jeffrey Rignall's testimony, he became so overwhelmed he vomited and had to be carried out of the courtroom. During the trial, a psychologist said that Gacy had tried to convince him of the multiple personality disorder during his evaluation, but he said that it was clear he was faking it. After 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with the decision that John Wayne Gacy was guilty, and after 2 more hours, they sentenced him to death. While in an effort to identify the remaining victims, artists and a professional facial reconstructor worked on July 14, 1980 to recreate the faces of the unidentified victims. The medical examiner encouraged families to step forward, but it was believed that because of the potential homosexuality of their possible relatives, they may have been afraid or ashamed to come forward.
Of course.
Yeah.
Family bigotry.
Yep. At a press conference where the reconstructed faces were revealed, Dr. Stein stated that there was absolutely no proof any of the kids or victims involved had engaged in any sexual deviant acts voluntarily. Obviously, this was to try to encourage the families that may...
Yeah, they weren't even looking for that.
Yeah.
The fact that they were murdered isn't...
Yeah, nobody cares who they're fucking...
That's how Dahmer got away with it. He made it, obvious what they were up to, and he just kind of made the cops oh, it's just a thing. And
yeah. To honor each of the 9 unidentified victims, Dr. Stein arranged individual funeral services and coffins for them. They were also buried in separate cemeteries, each with a headstone with the words "We Remember" engraved on them. And he stated that he didn't want them going to their final resting place, known only as a number.
That's fair.
Yeah. The later victims to be identified was 19-year-old William George, who was identified through DNA on November 9th, 2011, and 16-year-old Jimmy Hackinson, who was identified on July 19th, 2011, also through DNA that was provided by his siblings.
Yeah.
While Gacy was in prison, he painted self-portraits of him as Pogo the Clown and also Disney paintings.
I bet those go for a pretty penny.
Well, 2 businessmen purchased many of these paintings and auctioned them off to benefit the victims' families.
Huh.
And they were later destroyed.
I guess to prevent people from idolizing them or something?
I guess.
I know they would destroy Nazi memorabilia, too.
I think you should have sent them to a museum.
Yeah, the same. The thing is that even if they're in a museum, people come to idolize.
I don't know about idolizing. Like, if you're going to idolize something,
Well, yeah, there is. That's
like
another
that,
thing. Like Nazi
then
folks,
that's just going to be who you are.
the neo-Nazi
as a-
folks go to see Hitler's stuff. So
Yeah. But I think what the majority of most people would do is, damn, look at what that shithead did.
yeah,
That evil creature.
yeah.
I don't know.
Kind of comes across as a roadside attraction kind of situation.
Like, wasn't Hitler into art? Isn't that the whole reason he got all pissed off or something?
Yeah, they didn't want him in art college because I think he didn't do people very well. Didn't put him in enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Did he not?
He's actually pretty good at the architecture.
Huh?
I mean, I thought he was. It's a lot better than I could have done when I seen it.
Mm-mm.
I think he tried to get into architecture and it just wasn't good enough at the math after he realized he wasn't people enough for the art part.
Yeah. Gacy also tried to state that he had assistance in the murders after being in prison.
That's the clown and the Candyman thing.
Well, like I said, one of the survivors that was clearly drugged at the time, so I don't know.
He did say that he seen somebody else, didn't he?
He thought he saw someone else in the room.
Okay, yeah. We thought it might have been that one dude that seemed awfully close to him and almost got murdered a couple times, I think.
Yeah, that's possible.
Just hearsay. We obviously weren't there and don't know. This guy could be perfectly innocent and just caught up in some love triangle, but it's kind of odd. But you keep going back to somebody that must have murdered you at least once.
Yeah. At 12:58 a.m. on May 10th, 1994, 52-year-old John Wayne Gacy was executed at the Stateville Correctional Center. His last meal included 12 deep-fried shrimp, a bucket of KFC original recipe chicken.
He did have good taste there.
Fries, and a pound of strawberries.
I could see the strawberries too.
I love strawberries, but every time I get them now, mine mold, immediately.
You don't eat them quick enough. Maybe your fridge isn't cold enough.
My fridge is fine. My water's cold. I don't know. I don't know if it's like a Sam's Club thing or...
Could be a Sam's Club thing.
Which Sam's Club, my milk has been going bad like a week before it's supposed to go bad.
Hey, our Walmart has been too.
And I mean gross. There was black spots in it.
Yeah, our milk has been going bad from Walmart too.
So I'm not even getting my blackberries. Same thing. Molded like day, maybe 2 after.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of ours has been going... Have you been having problems with your... Sam's or Walmart brand milk.
I'm not
products.
even buying it anymore because
I drink it so fast now.
I see. I guess I don't, but I shouldn't have to drink it a week before it goes bad.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, his last words were "kiss my ass." So it said. Some sources say that they don't know for sure. But
how do they not know for sure?
I don't know.
I thought they were supposed to be witnesses for a reason.
You would think, but I guess it's like the that game they had you play in school to not gossip.
Telephone?
Yeah. By the time it gets to the last person in class, it's something completely different.
It's true.
Yeah. So maybe that's what happened there. I don't know. But there's also a few other little interesting facts that I just decided to throw in there after going through my notes and seeing that I didn't put it in there. It turns out Robert Peace's mother was at the pharmacy to pick him up from work when he left with Gacy. And during questioning, when presented with Robert's picture, Gacy actually confused him with a different victim. But he stated that either way, the victim that he thought it was dead.
Oh.
By the time, they were there.
Either way, he's gone. I don't remember which one he was, but he's gone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
In an interview, Carol, Gacy's second wife, mentioned that her 2 daughters continued to call Gacy their father despite him actually being their stepfather. And after all the details and truth came out, it turns out that he treated them very well, even though he had his own kids that he abandoned.
Yeah. Wonder why. I mean, you can't blame him if he was the father figure, if he treated them well growing up.
No.
Obviously, he wasn't after them, so.
Yeah. And then, as we've already mentioned, there's that whole may have been in a pedophile ring thing. I'm sure that somebody else's podcast would be able to explain that a lot better than I could have.
The clown and the Candyman.
It is very interesting to listen to or to learn about, but...
I'm pretty sure the Candyman was the guy...
The Candyman. I've never heard of that one.
He was another one in the episode that I was talking about, the clown and the Candyman. He was real popular for handing out candy in town and stuff for the kids. And he drove a van. He drove a van. And I'm pretty sure he's what gave the idea of the man in the van kind of kidnapping kind of
don't
thing.
take candy from strangers.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah. And then Gacy, I can't remember which one of it said that he was part of a ring. Was it Gacy or the Candyman? But one of them started that idea. Or maybe it was somebody else that was just recording some other, I don't remember. But it might be, it's worth looking into if you want to. The Clown and the Candyman. Like I said, there's another podcast that already done it, but we don't cover just one episode of stuff. We usually cover more than one episode on a subject.
I probably won't cover. Oh, I might cover the Candyman at some point.
It is a lot to cover.
Yeah.
Mostly just lists of names. And cop slip-ups.
Yeah. At the state I am in at the moment.
I'm unemployed now.
I've got to do simple things for a little bit.
I got let go yesterday, so.
Well, it ain't much of a loss to me.
No.
But let's not mention the company because I'm not let go yet.
So is that all for the John Wayne Gacy?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I'm doing for John Wayne Gacy.
Okay, well.
That is enough of that.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a lot to cover. Okay, well, if you like what you heard here, again, we're happy to be back. Look at our Facebook group. We have the links in the link tree in the description. That will take you to that or all our other stuff. The eBay shop where we sell a few odds and ends. It's just odds and ends. It ain't like merch or anything. We haven't got that designed yet. Again, sorry for taking such a delay. Lots of things happened here the last 6 months. It's been one after the other. But yeah, we have other podcasts, Leveling Duo, Brother Knows Quest. The description for those will be in the home page on the first link in the link tree. We have YouTube, 2 YouTube channels. One of them's Gruesome Gaming Plays and one of them's Gruesome Gaming Group. Gruesome Gaming Group is just our podcast. But Gruesome Gaming Plays is where we put YouTube.
I play Sims and Left 4 Dead at the moment.
Left 4 Dead, Sims. I'm going to be playing the new Oblivion remake. Also, that'd probably be a Leveling Duo episode eventually.
I actually have another Left 4 Dead video, but I need to take out the 10-second part where I'm testing everything to make sure it works.
Okay. There's also a link in the description to donate if you like, or just use the eBay shop, Gruesome Gaming General Goods, if you want to get something useful. All kinds of odds and ends in there. Join the Facebook community. Let us know what you think. There's emails in the description if you want to reach out to us. Thank you for listening. I've been Ramey.
I'm Beth.
And this has been HH&H. Bye-bye.